started with our legal department presentation. Councilmember Christie has asked me to step up and convene today. So again, I want to thank everyone who's here. I think we welcomed already Councilmember Mike Knox, but just in case we didn't, I'll go ahead and acknowledge you. Staff from the offices of Councilmember Cisneros, Councilmember Robinson, Councilmember Boykins, Councilmember Christie, Mayor Pro Tem Cohen, Vice Mayor Pro Tem Davis, Councilmember Stardig, and Councilmember Travis. We welcome you all to the chambers and legal department. We welcome you to give your presentation with City Attorney Ron Lewis. We can't.
See if that's any better. Yes, okay. Angela, are we ready with the presentation? Can we have the first slide if we are? Thank you. So for those who sit at home at night and wonder, how is the legal department organized? Here is our organizational chart. It's been this way for most of my tenure. It'll probably remain this way unless I add a component, because I think probably there ought to be somebody between general litigation and labor and employment and me. But right now I just don't have the means to add that person to become a first assistant to directly monitor the activities of those active groups. May I have the slide 3, please? This slide is a reflection of how many dollars we recapture from other departments as a function of salaries that are paid for by other departments. The numbers may actually go up because I continue to try to find ways to add capacity to my department, and to the extent there are other departments, in particular enterprise funds, that can support the addition of legal services, then we will pursue those options. Slide 5, please. So slide 5 is expenditures by funds, and just because of the way this comes to us from finance, it doesn't really tell the picture that I would suggest to you as most precise. Our general fund dollars are down. Actually, our proposed Fy2019 budget is exactly equal to our fiscal 18 adopted budget for Fund 1004, the Property and Casualty Fund. And so the only place you see a slight increase is in the Workers' Compensation Fund. That is a group of people that is very small in number, and it's mostly a function of increases in healthcare cost and pension-related cost, as opposed to added capacity to actually do work. So if we go to slide 6, slides 6, 7, and 8 are all similar. What we've done is try to break out for you the difference between our personnel cost in each of these funds and our non-personnel costs. And each of the non-personnel cost slides are in green, pie charts rather, are in green, and they share some common some categories that will be opaque to you. So I'm going to try to shed a little light, because the phrase other services might not be all that clear. The phrase restricted accounts might not be all that clear, and the phrase general offices services may not be that clear. This will be true for each of these pie charts, though. Other services includes things like software maintenance contracts. We have 2 principal software maintenance responsibilities. One is our document management software, if you want to call it that. It's kind of old and out of date and decrepit, but we have to try to keep it functioning. It doesn't have a lot of functionality for us. It's not a very up-to-date document management program. We also have discovery management program, which is much more current, much more up to date, doesn't yet, it's not robust enough to generally service us consistently in all of our needs consistently, and so we have to sort of prioritize what casework we use it for and monitor when we deploy it and when we don't. But both those things require maintenance, and so those maintenance costs are included there. Our parking costs are included there. That's mostly in the annex. And mail cost, bar dues, continuing legal education cost, the occasional travel cost associated principally with either CLE or litigation. In the general office's services slice of the pie, you will have perhaps our most important piece of software, and that's Westlaw cost. We also have to pay some money to store things off-site, and we pay, I think, the county for that, right? Harris County for off-site archive storage. And we also have some title data work cost that is done out of our neighborhood services group. In the restricted accounts, all of the departments are reporting the same categories of restricted accounts to you. So I'm sure you've heard that before: insurance, IT services, Chronos, printer rentals, HR services. Supplies is self-evident. The legal services contracts are the monies we pay for outside counsel or depositions, court reporting cost, the occasional outside copying cost type charge. So again, each of the funds, Fund 1000, Fund 1004, and 1011 has their individual breakout that you can study at your leisure. So if we go to chart 9, please, Angela. This is the chart where we attempt to explain, again, all the departments are following this template, I assume, and explain basically what's happened over the last 3 years. And in legal, the budget reductions in the last 3 years have come out of personnel. We've reduced about 8 FTEs. We've done a little more research, though, and we would tell you that over the past 10 years, our budgeted positions in the legal department have reduced by about 17%. We've lost about 36 budgeted FTE positions over the last 10 years. And if you go back, right now we have about 172 budgeted positions. If you go back to 1999, there were 214 budgeted positions. In 2001, there were 218 budgeted positions. What that reflects is a loss of capacity in the legal department. And during the period that the city has grown, I mean the population of the city, then the requirements of the city, as I was joking this morning, the number of elevators that have to be inspected by the city, everything has grown. The city's legal work has gotten more sophisticated and more complex, and we have fewer and fewer lawyers and fewer resources to enable the lawyers we have to do that work. Page 10 is the bottom line chart for you all, and you will see that our budget reduction initiatives reduced our change from the fiscal year 17 operating budget by 1.7%, and the bottom line this year is about a 5% decrease in our Fund 1000 budget. I have to admit that I did everything I could to keep that number from being negative. I figure I need at least 10 to 15 new lawyers today. But on the other hand, the department tries to do what it can to support the mayor in his effort to balance the budget. Slide 11 is some of our expenditure highlights for the coming year. You've heard me whine and moan already that we don't have a lot of resources. I'm not unique in that respect going forward. We have we calculated a number for you just to show you how lean we are. About 4% of our budget is for direct operational cost. Now, you can quibble with that because we don't pay rent, and you don't have capital depreciation. On the other hand, I think probably all of the furniture and equipment in my office was fully depreciated about 20 years ago. So it's still, I think, a pretty lean operation. You will see an increase in the planned use of outside counsel, and that's largely driven by the practicalities. If I don't have the staff to handle the work in-house, I have to plan for trying to deal with the things that come up and confront us on a exigent basis. And frankly, I have to cannibalize our operation to get money into that area so that we can deal with the significant constitutional personal injury and commercial litigation that we encounter on a regular basis. If we go to slide number 12, that's the functional organizational chart that just gives you the FTEs broken out by the various sections in my department. Slide 13 will show you the demographics of our department. And you will see from that we are roughly 66% staffed by women. And we are a fairly diverse group of people. While there are categories that I would like to see more representation in, we're still a fairly diverse group in the legal department, which is one of the better reasons to show up to work every day there. Another one of the better reasons to show up to work there is on slide 14, because again, in spite of the fact that I ask the lawyers and staff to do more with less and to be rewarded in no shape or form for doing more with less, they continue to do more with less. And so what we try to do is provide a list of the things that have happened over the past fiscal year that reflect both the importance and the contribution that our lawyers and staff have made to the city's essential ability to deliver services. Slide 15 is some routine performance measures we have year over year reported to you all. I'm probably going to continue to try to look at better ways to evaluate our performance and present that information to you, but these are historical metrics that we continue to make available for you. And that concludes the slides. I'm happy to field your questions.
Thank you for your presentation. First, let me start by just a few global highlights and thanking you for your role with pension reform, the Houston Pension Solution. That was not something that went unnoticed and certainly has had a huge impact on our overarching fiscal year 19 budget. So we want to thank you for that. And then also to acknowledge and applaud you all for the Towers settlement, which also has helped with respect to our fiscal year 19 budgetary reductions across the board in terms of how many cuts or potential personnel we would have to remove as a result of having the deficit we were anticipating. So I want to acknowledge those two pieces. One question I have actually stems from slide 3, and it shows a 16.3% increase in your general fund revenues. Can you just share with us what the basis of that is?
Revenues, again, are just dollars that we get back. We recapture from other departments for salaries paid for by those other departments. And so there's actually no, it's one of these funky city accounting terms. So it sounds like it might be some money we made. It's not money we made. So Houston Public Works funds a number of positions in my department. And so we have to recapture the money that we paid for those salaries from their budget. So that's primarily what you're seeing there. And as I mentioned, while it is not my preference to have attorneys paid for by the departments, I am open to that now just so we can add capacity. One of the limitations is if I add, for example, a lawyer who's paid for by the airport systems, that lawyer can only work on airport work because they're using federal money. So it doesn't add to my capacity to do work for the other 22 departments. So that's one of the issues there.
Got it. Another question I had with regard to the slideshow presentation, on slide 11, you highlight the insufficient resources for technology needs. What are some of the upcoming technology, things that you need technologically that you don't presently have, and is that anticipated for in future years' budgets?
A couple of stories about that. Because you all have heard me say this before, and I think you're sympathetic. I need, for example, a document management system that is actually functional. You exponentially increase the capacity of any individual lawyer if you make accessible to them all of the work of all of the other lawyers in the department. So, for example, if I need to write a pleading or a discovery document, and I can go into our document management system and find how it has been done by 15 or 20 other people and find the best model. Now I'm not trying to create something from scratch. I have gotten all the best ideas from 15 or 20 other people that I can now put into a more polished product. We simply do not have a document management system that functions in that way or permits us to do that. We are in the CIP, I think, for the possible access to funds to accomplish that several years from now. But just, every major law firm, and even not major law firms, I mean, my little small two-person law firm had that kind of functionality. I was a much better practitioner because of that, much more efficient, faster, literally smarter because of that. I went to another example. I went to a case being tried that is of consequence to the city, although not a negative pecuniary outcome was not ever going to happen. But neither of my lawyers there had laptops at trial. I mean, it's 2018. The idea of going to trial and not having laptops that allow you to, in real time, resource the people back at the office to get information that you need and to get updated on things you might not have considered is just staggering to me. I don't understand it. I can't imagine doing it. So there were things that came up that the judge was asking that if we had the necessary technology, we could have pinged back to somebody in the office to make that information available. HPW, I thought, was going to, or other departments were going to be in a position to surrender some underutilized equipment, but they're not able to do so. And so we have to actually have money in the budget to go out and buy computers. The only people who really get new, up-to-date computers in my department, laptops. I don't think anybody's getting new desktop computers, but the only people who get up-to-date equipment in my department are lawyers who work for enterprise funds, because the enterprise funds have enough money to buy those lawyers equipment, which of course makes all the lawyers who don't work for the enterprise funds very happy, because they don't get that help in their practice. So those are two examples of what we need.
So just to clarify, so right now it's not the standard practice for your attorneys to have laptop computers to be able to take home and do work or take to trial or whatnot, unless they are within an enterprise fund. But if they're not being funded in that way, that's not standard?
The only lawyers who get issued a laptop are my section chiefs, my first assistants, and I have one. There are lawyers, and the ones who work for enterprise funds. There are some laptops that I have now instructed to be made available to anybody going to trial, but those are sometimes reprocessed, rebuilt computers. They're not state of the art, and the number of them is subject to availability, of course. Not every lawyer. I don't think we issue phones to most lawyers, really any lawyers, really.
You don't?
Any.
You said you don't issue phones?
We don't issue phones, although I'm trying to find a way to make that service more available. So for a number of lawyers in my department who are not section chiefs, yeah, when they leave work, for example, on Friday when everything's shut down, they had no way to do work at home. And they have no way to be reached other than on personal devices or home phones.
Thank you for that clarification. I was not aware of these types of deficits within the department in terms of equipment and technology. Does anybody else have any questions? We don't see anyone in the queue, but just checking. Okay. Well, we appreciate your time. Any comments from the public? Okay, seeing there's no comment from the public, again, thank you for your presentation and thank you for your report. We'll recess until 2 p.m. where we'll begin with the health department's presentation. Thank you.